Hello and welcome to the 20th ever episode of the Unsigned Manager Podcast. My name is Siji Kolawole and I'm a huge football fan. Every week I want to talk to you about the game, either the past or the present, what's currently happening, or taking a look back and analysing old school situations and seeing what really went on. Now, a couple of weeks ago I did my first ever comparison episode as I looked at two of the best wingers in their generation. All-time favourites Iron Robin and Welsh superstar Gareth Bale. If you haven't listened, you should probably go and check it out. I will say it's pretty good, even if I do say so myself. So on to episode 2. Now the two players I picked for this week are again two of the best of their generation. One has been a winner across multiple teams and leagues, whilst another showed extraordinary levels for Europe's best team. Both are the best players from their home nations, putting an entire country on their back. Both have scored an incredible amount of goals, constantly punishing defenders. But ironically, their careers were changed because of one another. And there's a chance that they both would have been better off if they stayed in the same situation. On this week's episode of the Unsigned Manager Podcast, I want to compare the careers of footballing legends Samuel Eto'o and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So let's get into the episode. Their career crossover was actually the boiling point for the legendary managerial beef between Pep and Jose Mourinho. It also added extra spice to that 2010 Champions League tie and really changed the outcome of both their careers, but we'll get to that. Let's start with Samuel Eto'o. I have an unfortunate feeling that he's probably going to be forgotten later on because he played just before football Twitter became a serious hold on all of us. Also, his highlights, although proper destructive, aren't flashy like an Okocha's or a Dino's or an Henri's, so I'm unsure if many people will go back and actually study his game. So that's why I wanted to for this episode, so let's dive into his career. Alright, so Samuel Eto'o, sick name, was born in Douala in Cameroon and he trained at the Kaji Sports Academy as a young player. He was always a huge football fan, just like the rest of us, and had big ambitions to become one of the world's best. He actually moved to France as a teenager to try and get picked up by a French super club, but it didn't actually work out, and he spent some time as an illegal immigrant in France because he couldn't get his international paperwork sorted. But life would soon get better for the striker. Of all the clubs that a teenager can go to, Real Madrid must be pretty high up the list. The most decorated club in the world, most famous club in the world, a ticket to mainstream media, and a chance to play with world-class teammates. Yeah, not bad for a 17-year-old. He joined Los Blancos in 1997, but because he was still a minor, he wasn't eligible to play or train with the first team, so he joined a well-trodden path of playing for Madrid B, with the aim to be promoted into the first team squad. But Madrid B were relegated to the third division of Spanish football, where non-EU players were unsanctioned to play, so after a few loan moves to bounce him around and get some experience, Eto'o finally signed for mid-table side Mallorca, where he previously had shone on loan. In his 4 years at the club, Eto'o really rose his stock after a record signing of €4.4 million. He said that he loved being at Mallorca, everyone looked after him, and the appreciation from the fans made it feel like home. And he repaid the love of the fans, contributing to 14 goals in 28 games in his first league campaign. That's pretty wild as a young player. Was he like 20, 21? And in his final season at the club, he produced 17 goals and 1 assist. He was shining in Mallorca, dominating their biggest games and being the focal point of their attack. I think that's the thing that I think that's what is missing in the game today. You don't have many focal point of attack nines. I know people want to do a lot more rotation and be unpredictable and yada yada yada, but it is something nice about knowing the ball's going to this guy. Like Romelu Lukaku, shock, has been playing for Chelsea this season. He's played, 4 or 5 games, scored maybe 4 goals. But every time Chelsea get the ball in the final third, they're looking for one man. You don't really get that too often nowadays, but it's nice when you can see it. Anyway, Eto'o won silverware at Mallorca, bagging twice in a Copa del Rey final win. Then he paid €30,000 worth of food to fans who travelled to the game. What a nice guy. Eto'o wasn't shy to damage Madrid either, beating them in consecutive games at the Bernabeu and scoring in both. One was a 5-1 destruction as Mallorca went absolutely mad, and the other denied back-to-back league titles for Los Blancos. In total, he racked up 67 goals in just over 150 games at Mallorca, which is a banging record. Was the club's highest ever goal scorer and a pure fan favourite. But his ability was beginning to surpass that of a mid-table team, and he wanted to go test his talents elsewhere. He's been hunted by some of the biggest clubs in Spain, some of the biggest in the world. Barcelona and Real Madrid were sniffing around the Cameroonian, as that level of goal scoring is wanted by just about everyone. It turns out that Real Madrid actually had plans to buy him back and then loan him out again, since their front line already had Luis Figo and Michael Owen and R9 in it, so thank goodness that didn't happen. Rather than accept that bunch of ridiculousness, Mallorca decided to accept Barcelona's sizable £24 million bid for the striker in the summer of 2004. Now, his first season in Barcelona was successful. The club ended the campaign as champions of Spain, and Eto'o narrowly missing out as Golden Boot winner. He got in a bit of hot water after leading Barcelona fans to sing a disrespectful chant about their first club, Real Madrid, which caused the first of some concerns into his character. But 05-06 would turn out to be a memorable one for sure. Pichichi Award? Yeah. Samuel Eto'o edged past David Villa on the final day of the season to win his first Golden Boot with 26 league goals. European success? Yeah, we'll take that too. In the first and only football game to ever make me cry, Samuel Eto'o went round Manuel Munoz to level the 2006 Champions League final against Arsenal, before Barca went on to win 2-1 and bring the Big Ear trophy back to Spain. Individual acclaim? Yeah, you get the point. Eto'o won his third straight African Player of the Year award, made it into his second straight FIFA Pro World 11, finished third in World Player of the Year, second ever African to do that after George Weah. The next few seasons were injury and controversy filled, with Eto'o suffering knee injuries and being called out for being a problem in the team due to a lack of his team working, which led to rumours of his departure. But President Joan Laporta was quick to say that Eto'o wasn't going anywhere, everyone kicked their hands off, and he repaid that faith that the president had in him. He scored his first league hat-trick in 2008, then scored the fastest hat-trick in club history after only 23 minutes, which is disgusting. And then in the same year, he scored 4 in the first half of Barca's 6-0 battering of Valladolid. He moved into Barcelona's top 10 goal scorers of all time with his 111th career goal against Sevilla, and was easily one of the best in the world at his position. One of those, if the ball comes into him and you're the opposition, you are terrified. One of those that when the ball floats in the box and you see him ready to make that move, you know it's going in. Then rolled around 2009, where Eto'o cracked 30 league goals, won the league with a 6-point gap over Real Madrid, and then he scored in his second Champions League final as Barcelona took apart Manchester United to win their second European Cup in 4 years. But the arrival of Pep Guardiola and his ideology of promoting La Masia graduates was changing the tide for some of Barca's older stars. Ronaldinho and Deco were moved on, and tension between the manager and Eto'o was calling for a shift in his career. And that brings me to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, one of the most famous, controversial, explosive athletes on the planet, a legend in the game, one of the most decorated players in the world, a pure footballer. Pure, talk about the blend of athleticism and technique, different level. Zlatan started out in Malmo in Sweden after a rough childhood, and he always had a chip on his shoulder, always had a point to prove. He signed his first professional contract in 96, graduating to the first team of Malmo in 99. Now, although they were relegated and then promoted again like a yo-yo, his performances were good enough for Arsene Wenger to try and persuade him to join Arsenal, but we know how that went. But it was Dutch legend Leo Benhaker who convinced him to join footballing giants Ajax, another common theme for the podcast, for €8.5 million in July of 2001. Now, it was a rough start in Holland as Zlatan had little playing time in the beginning, but when current Barcelona manager Ronald Koeman took over the Ajax team, that tide started to turn. Zlatan was getting much more game time and producing more for the team, contributing to 10 goals as Ajax rolled on to win that 01-02 Eredivisie title. He scored twice in the Champions League debut in his first campaign and was really developing his talent in Amsterdam. The perfect blend of physical dominance, technique times 10, and a ruthless goal-scoring edge. Zlatan was becoming a real force. He's tall, 6'5", but his technique and ball work is that like of a 5'9", number 10. People forget, but this guy's a spectacular football player. 2004 was a big breakout year for him. First, he scored that goal where he dribbles and fake shots around 5 or 6 defenders before rolling it in the net. And the annoying thing about this, I must have seen this goal at least 100 times. The annoying thing about it is that I never ever expect him to fake the keeper, even though I've seen it every time. It always catches me by surprise. Every time I think he's just going to smash it past the keeper, he rolls him instead. He lets one genius bounce off him straight away and then starts dancing around defending before sitting the keeper down. It's just another layer of disrespect on a nasty goal. Then he secures a big money move to Juventus for €16 million at 23 years old. He quickly slotted in the starting 11 because David Trezeguet wasn't fit again. I might cover Trezeguet one day. And bagged 16 goals in his first season as Juve won Serie A again. But, like I covered before, the Calciopoli scandal reared its ugly head. Check out that episode, that's a good one. And although the Juve staff tried to convince him to stay, practically beg him, Mino Raiola made sure that his client got out of this mess and got him out of Juventus. Inter Milan came calling for the striker, and Juventus accepted a relatively cheap €24 million for him. So Zlatan was on his way to Milan. His 3 years at Inter were quite fruitful. He won 3 straight Serie A titles and 2 Coppa Italias as his goal scoring and creativity became even more exceptional. Player of the year, goal of the season, top scorer, everything was coming up for him. The thing I've always liked about his game, he's like Olivier Giroud to me, where his technique and his size don't match. Some players that's really annoying, like Lacazette wants to be 6'4". He wants to be a 6'4" target man, but he's really 5'8". Ibra and Giroud have the touch of players who are 6-7 inches shorter than them. So he can do bully ball. If he wants to stand next to a defender and do bully ball, that's a long day for the defender. He can also drift into the pocket and play passes. He can do skills. He can drift around people. He hit it with his left, with his right. He's a proper player. And now we're at the point where our 2 protagonists meet. One side we've got Samuel Eto'o, 2-time Champions League winner who's a scorer of big goals in big games, and he needs a move to try and replicate him being at the peak of his powers and get out of that Barcelona situation. On the other side, we have Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the same age. Weird to me that they're the same age, but more promise in his game at this time. He's bounced around, he's had success at each point, but now he's looking for a stable place to really show his levels. Eto'o is looking to leave a Champions League contender, and Zlatan is ready to make that step to get to a Champions League. Both are explosive, fiery personalities who have been known to be a bit of a handful for their gaffers, so it takes a certain type of manager to lead them. Managers who command respect because they've already won at the highest level of the game, like Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola. This is one of the last situations like this in football. It's a lot more old school style transfer than we get nowadays. In July of 2009, Barcelona president Joan Laporta announced that there was an agreed deal to swap player for player. Eto'o for Ibrahimovic plus 59 million. Good deal for Inter in my opinion. You're probably losing the better player at the time in Ibra, but gaining someone who isn't that far behind and adding 60 mil to get more players for that stacked squad. Jose did a good job there. Both players are now in different situations, so let's see how it went on. Both started the 09-10 season with their new clubs. Let's start with Eto'o. Eto'o scores on his debut in the Supercoppa, then scored in his Serie A debut and was a big part of Inter's 4-0 demolishing of AC Milan in a wonderfully chaotic derby game. Over in Barcelona, Zlatan started even better, higher heights. He won the Spanish Super Cup in his first game, then the UEFA Super Cup in his second, and went on to be the first Barcelona player to score in his first 5 games for the club. He did take a knock, which ruled him out for a few weeks, but 15 games into the season, he'd racked up 11 goals and 4 assists. That's pretty outrageous, right? He was put in the UEFA Team of the Year, but Eto'o would actually finish in the Ballon d'Or running that year, as he proved his ability in finishing was still at that top level. Both players and their superstar clubs would progress to the latter stages of the Champions League that year, meeting each other in the semi-final. Now, I'm not going to cover this game now because I'd covered it in loads of detail in episode 13, but in case you don't know, Inter went through after a masterclass defensive performance with only 10 men for over an hour at the Nou Camp, going on to win the first Italian treble that season. Eto'o did a job for that team rather than playing as a 9 because of Diego Milito. He pulled out to the wing, did a lot more defensive work than he was used to, really put a shift in for the team. He became the first player in football history to win 2 trebles consecutively with 2 different clubs. And after that game, when Barcelona were knocked out, Zlatan was not as pleased, and he let his manager know this. He writes in his book that he confronted Pep after the game, screaming and shouting that he has no balls and that Pep can go to hell, calling him a spineless coward. Zlatan became even more frustrated when Pep didn't address the issue. Instead, he just chose to say nothing and walk away. Later on that season, Zlatan informed the media at a press conference that his relationship with the Bold One was deteriorating and that they hadn't spoken in nearly 5 years. And with Messi wanting to shift inside rather than play wide, it was the end for Zlatan in Barcelona. As Eto'o was again shining in Milan, it turned out he had a new neighbour. Barcelona agreed a loan deal with AC Milan for Zlatan with a €24 million option to buy. He claimed that he was really excited by the move, looking to win the Champions League with the Rossoneri, and he had a great first season in Milan, if not slightly marred by some behavioural issues. He contributed to 21 goals in 21 games in all comps, which is outstanding and incredibly consistent, and it led to him being compared to Dutch icon Marco van Basten, who used to play for Milan, by both the media and the Dutchman himself. Of all the praise you can get from football players, Marco van Basten saying that you're like him is kind of wild. But Zlatan was also a bit crazy, getting a 3-match ban for punching a Bari defender in the stomach in a game, and then another ban for swearing at an assistant referee. But despite all of that, the season did end successfully as coach Massimo Allegri guided AC to the Scudetto that season, winning their first Serie A in a long time. Eto'o sparkled again for Inter that season, particularly in the Champions League when he almost beat Inter Milan by himself, coming up with a goal and 2 assists to put Inter through, as well as scoring 37 goals in all comps that season. Inter president Massimo Moratti said, "I'm not sure if the deal that brought Eto'o to the club was my best piece of transfer business ever, but I think it was a really great piece of business for us. Eto'o is fantastic. I do not want to take anything from Ibrahimovic, but for everyone involved, it was a really great deal to get Eto'o because Samuel is extraordinary." Unfortunately, I think this will be the end of Eto'o's peak, his final peak, as the remainder of his career would just have him bouncing around smaller, less known clubs, or joining major teams for a year or 2 but not doing too much. He left Inter in 2011 to join Angi Makashkala for a deal that would have made him the world's highest paid player. He was earning about $400k a week at the time, and I remember as a kid thinking, that is outrageous. What can one person do with $400k a week? But shout out to him. Then 2 years later, he joined Chelsea for a year, then Everton, Sampdoria. I remember him at Sampdoria a little bit. I remember him scoring once in a game. I can't remember the game, and I know Sampdoria Stadium looks dark and thinking, what on earth is happening here? Why is Eto'o playing here? Then he played for Konyaspor, Antalyaspor and Qatar FC before announcing his retirement for the game in September 2019. Zlatan has had a very different end to his career, however. He's still producing at a very high level. After finding success at AC Milan, he never did get that Champions League there though. He went on to be a jewel in the crown of PSG's new mega-rich super team, where half of his AC Milan team left to go with him, and they were aiming to win a Champions League with that squad there. He became the second highest paid player in the world, 1-0 Samuel Eto'o. He absolutely dominated in France, becoming PSG's highest goal scorer ever at a point before Cavani took over. And he had his longest stay at a single club. He won leagues upon leagues, but again, he couldn't get near a Champions League title there. Manchester United was his next calling, where he was again very effective for an aging striker and acted as a mentor to younger players like Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard. Zlatan then took a brief stop in America where he to score a ton of goals for LA Galaxy, but no disrespect to the MLS, no one really cares. before returning back to AC Milan, where he's currently 40 years old, starting up front and bagging goals at 40 years old. The guy's an absolute physical freak, and his mindset to still be playing at this age is crazy. So that's the overview of their career so far. I want to move into the stats and just take a look at their numbers. Now, when it came to the stats, I thought it would be a bit closer than it was. I know that Ibrahimovic is still playing whilst Eto'o's been retired for about 2 years, which skews the numbers, but I definitely thought Eto'o would have made this a bit closer. I was doing the research thinking, bloody hell, like, you wouldn't have thought that these two were at the same level. We'll go through their stats for the entire career and drill down to their 3 peak seasons, see what's happening there. And, I just want to make sure this is only for club games. International football is a mixed bag, and I can't judge the African Cup of Nations against the Euros or Sweden and Cameroon, so I just kept this to club football. Alright, so for their clubs, bearing in mind that Zlatan still can add to his goal tally, he scored 101 more goals than Eto'o did for his career. 384 for Zlatan, 283 for Eto'o. Zlatan also has over 40 more assists, 134 to 92, and his goals and assists per 90 are way higher than Eto'o's, with Zlatan averaging a goal and assist per game. Combined, he's averaging a goal and assist per game. I mean, you think about the fact that Eto'o played in much weaker leagues for a longer stretch than Zlatan did. It's crazy that he wasn't able to bag more for like Konyaspor and Antalyaspor and really make this a competition. Yeah, you do need to take into account that Zlatan has played more career games. He played about 40 more games, but having an extra 100 goals after 40 more games in a much tougher league shows his level. Now, for their careers, Eto'o can brag about efficiency, to be honest, as he was more accurate as a marksman than Ibra was. He's higher in shots on target, higher in goals per shot ratio, meaning he's taking more measured chances and he's more composed when he gets them, rather than Ibra, who can be a bit more wild and start shooting from everywhere. And you can see it in their styles, because Eto'o was never really one of those long distance, let me pick the ball up from 30 and hammer it kind of players. He wasn't one of those. He's a penalty box destroyer. Ball gets into the box and he's in there, in the air with both feet, but he's not going to want to pick it up from 40 and start hammering it. And when I look at their 3 peak seasons, when I look at any player's 3 peak seasons, especially for strikers, I really just want to look at output. I understand there's more facets to the game and there's more things happening, but for a number 9, I think the game can be quite simple. Other positions, you get more nuanced and intricate, but for my striker, I just need goals and assists. Anything else you can give to me on top is great, but the bare minimum I need is goals and assists. And statistically, Eto'o's 3 best seasons in a row are his final year at Mallorca and his first 2 in Barcelona. Ibra's 3 peak seasons are much later, however, coming in his 30s in his last year at Milan and his first 2 in Paris. Now, Eto'o's 3-year peak is really strong. He played a ridiculous 133 games in 3 years, putting up 103 goals and assists, meaning he was averaging 0.77 goals and assists per 90, which is pretty ridiculous. That's like Luis Suarez numbers at Barcelona over 3 years. Top level striker. And Eto'o was capable of scoring every type of goal, and I mean every type: left foot, right foot, headers, in the box, finishing, creative, anything he could do, he could get it done. In his second season at Barca, he put up 44 goals and assists in 47 games, which is just outstanding. Messi, him, and Ronaldinho was just a phenomenal trio, with Eto'o looking as the bagsman in that 3. But Ibra blows him out the water. Especially those first 2 seasons at PSG, Lord help those Frenchmen. Zlatan scored a combined 52 and 58 goals and assists in 2 consecutive seasons in France. 52 and 58. He had loads of assists, which makes sense when you have the eye test and you watch him play, because he has soft touch and good vision. But because he's also big, you can use him as a target man, but then you can get the ball down and find other people. He's not one or the other. He's not like a in-behind striker like a Gabi Jesus, where it's rare he might be squaring it to other people. And he's not like a target man like a a Chris Wood where you deliver it to him, you're just looking for headers. He can do both. In his second year at PSG, he had 26 goals and 15 assists in the league. That's pretty crazy from a 9. And over that peak, he contributed to 157 goals in 136 games. 1.15 goals and assists per game. Over a goal and assist per game. I think that pretty much settles the stats, to be honest. I didn't think it would be that far away. I thought Eto'o would be much closer, but Zlatan has absolutely blown it out of the water. When you look at their trophy cabinet, both of them are flooded with major trophies, and they played for big teams in the biggest moments and been majorly successful. For Eto'o, that translates into 3 Champions Leagues, 3 La Liga titles, 1 Serie A, 2 Coppa del Reys, 2 Coppa Italias. He finished 3rd in the World Player of the Year, 2 FIFA Pro World 11s. He played in 2 UEFA Team of the Years, and he won 1 Spanish Golden Boot. For a career, that is a phenomenal set of awards. 3 Champions Leagues as a player nowadays is big levels. Zlatan can't really argue with European success. He never won one, but he can say he's the GOAT of league titles, probably. 6 Serie A league titles, 4 Liga titles, 2 Dutch league titles, 1 La Liga title. He won the Europa League at Manchester United, a trillion domestic leagues, or domestic trophies, wherever he's been, a bunch of domestic trophies. He finished 4th in the Ballon d'Or one year. He won a Puskás Award for one of those crazy overhead kicks, a FIFA Pro World 11, and he won multiple Player of the Years in France and in Italy. When you look at their biggest moments, you can see why they are so legendary in the game. Eto'o scored in 2 Champions League finals. He managed to change his game in his 30s to go from being a penalty box finishing number 9 to a left winger who can cut inside and contribute to the attack, but also is more than happy to track back and support the team. He is the first man in history to win back-to-back trebles for 2 different clubs. And he, obviously I don't want to talk about internationals, but he's the father of Cameroon. And then other than Manchester United, Zlatan won every league title in every country he's been in. Overhead kicks all over the globe. Scoring 2 goals in his Champions League debut for Ajax, PSG's highest ever goal scorer. He's had some big moments, and again, you don't want to talk about internationals, but we all saw that game versus England where he went on an absolute mad one and scored a wild hat-trick. So now at the end, I just want to think about my opinion on who would I pick if I was a manager, if I was the gaffer, and I had to pick one to be in my squad. Who would I select? Now I thought this would be a lot harder than it was. Off memory, Samuel Eto'o is one of the most destructive players I've ever seen play. It felt like every single time he played, he got a couple. 18-yard boxing in, Samuel Eto'o is one of the most destructive players I've ever seen. When the ball's in there, it's going in. He reminds me of Sergio Aguero. You know, when the ball gets in the box, everyone goes, "Oh, Lord." It's like that. He didn't have bad injury luck. Not really, nothing too extensive. You can count on him to play. You can count on him in a big moment to put the ball away. 2 Champions League finals, you get it. But I think Zlatan kind of easily takes this one. Maybe it's because he's been playing so long and he's now 40 that I've kind of like lost perspective on how good he was as a player. But obviously for this, I did loads of research and looked back and looked at the numbers and watched his games and stuff. And this guy's an absolute madman. Especially the the PSG and the AC Milan highlights. If you don't want to watch anything, go and check those out. The stuff that this guy is doing, not just as a 9, not just as a finisher, but dropping into the pocket and creating chances, the passing, the game awareness, knowing when to touch it, knowing not when to touch it, knowing when to do something crazy and acrobatic, knowing when to just finish it. The guy is a proper footballer. Left foot, right foot, header, screamer, tap-in, creative goal. Then he can get you an assist. Then he's a great passer. Then he can probably beat most people 1v1 dribbling. At 6'5", he's got feet like a 5. He's got feet like Marco Verratti at 6'5". Ibra is a proper striker. I think I kind of forgot how good he was, but I remember arguing with someone about who was better for their generation, something stupid like him or Lewandowski, and I was just laughing in the guy's face like, Lewandowski's way better, Ibra's rubbish, whatever, because I was just being annoying in an argument. But Ibrahimovic is a phenomenal player. I think I missed out. Won a league title everywhere he's been, other than Man United. Shout out to United, a rubbish team. Won league titles everywhere. Mentor. Now look at him with Rafael Leao and Ante Rebic. From that, go all the way back to him being Trezeguet's understudy and then taking minutes from them. Go all the way back to Ajax just signing, being that new young player, contributing to 10 goals in his first season. Just go back. Before that, he's got enough confidence to say, Arsene Wenger, I'm not doing any trial. I know how good I am. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is the guy. I think if I had to pick one, I'd take Ibra over Eto'o. It's not, I want to say it's close. It's not close. I think I'd have Ibra over Eto'o pretty handedly at this point. Which kind of hurts because Eto'o might be one of Africa's greatest players, but it is what it is. Shout out to Zlatan. Thanks, guys. That's the end of the episode this week. Appreciate the support. Appreciate all the love, all the advice, all the help, all the follows, all that corny stuff on the socials. It actually does help. As much as it is gross to say and ask, it actually does really help. So I thank you guys. Sorry for the voice. I'm a bit sick this week. But it is what it is. Just make sure I had to get this done. I'll see you guys next week. I think next week's episode is going to be another good one. I want to do a first couple weeks roundup of what's been happening in the leagues. So I might just take a look at the Prem, or like 3 or 4 games in at that point. So I want to just take stock of how everyone's doing. But I'll see you guys next week. Appreciate the support. Peace.